Clark is just all over the news. And I I feel badly for her, to be honest, because I don't think she asked for this attention. However, I also feel very badly for the predominantly black NBA or WNBA players who just got treated like crap and continue to get treated like crap for their careers and did not get the attention that they deserved for many years for their play, for their, basically incredible competitiveness. Caitlin Clark has been targeted, really, it seems, because she's a rookie and this kind of stuff happens with some very physical off-ball play, including a foul that was just upgraded to a flagrant by one of the Chicago players whose name is escaping me right now.
Chennedy Carter.
Chennedy Carter. So that has been making headlines because it was clearly a foul that was not a basketball play, as Clark said after the game. But the level of attention that is coming to this for a rookie player who is not having her best season, she's having trouble adjusting to the physicality of the WNBA. And she's had her moments, of course, but this was going to happen. I mean, she's not a big woman in the same way that some of these other women are. And I'll say this now, you go through, people say, and I've experienced it, kind of like two puberties sometimes as a woman, where your body changes in your mid-20s in terms of like your hips get wider, you get stronger. Like there are some just things that happen a little bit in your mid-20s that Caitlin Clark maybe hasn't gone through yet as just a person. And I'm not a professional athlete, but a lot of my friends and I experience this kind of stuff. So she's just not that big right now. She's getting bullied a little bit. And she's also getting targeted because of the outsized media attention that she has got. And this has caused this insane backlash by these white knight media figures like frickin' Pat McAfee, although he called her a white bitch on TV today in terms of like, I guess it was a term of endearment, but it's like, this is the most prominent female athlete in the country, maybe in terms of popularity. Maybe you don't call her a bitch, a white bitch. So maybe he wants to get canceled and go somewhere else. But there's been this whole right-wing media ecosystem, again, that she did not ask for. Clark has not asked for this, but it's still happening. That is like, I'm going to defend her from these scary black ladies. Like, I'm going to protect her from all these violent black women. And then you go and you see these old scrums in the WNBA, and it's like, it's been physical all the time before this. That's part of the game, and also going after rookies is a part of the game in every sport. But because it's women, and because a white woman is getting kind of pushed around here, it triggers all the guys that were upset about what I had to say about the time that I got hit. Again, this is very inside baseball. But Ben Shapiro, when I told a story about a time when I had an encounter with a man on the subway who was having an episode and he was jerking around and I got hit in the face by accident because he was not in his right mind. And I said, I would not want someone to physically harm that person. I just moved away and I went on with my day, even though I was uncomfortable at the time. This caused this outrage in right-wing media, which I was not expecting on my little podcast for that to go viral like that. And I see this same dynamic here with Caitlin Clark, oddly, because we're both white women. And there is this sort of like white knight patriarchal thing that a lot of men feel is their honor-bound duty to protect white women from scary people. And usually those people are non-white. So I don't know. Like, this is a little bit of an aside, but I found this interaction interesting. Monica McNutt, who is my favorite, she does the radio for Knicks games. She also sometimes fills in for Clyde on Knicks broadcasts on TV, and then she also does post-game analysis for MSG, plus does ESPN coverage now. She's moving on up. She's phenomenal. She was on First Take today and confronted Stephen A. about, like, why are we covering this like this and you didn't cover it, the WNBA, before? And she makes some great points here.
We're talking about them maximizing their great potential. And because we bring that up and talk about what potentially might get in their way, which we do to men all the time, now we got to sit up here and watch every syllable. I resent that, and I'll leave it at that.
All right, so let me, I know we got to go to break. Welcome to the world of being a woman, Stephen A., and how you have to dance about your word choice and you have to please everybody and anybody as you navigate your being. We are talking about the world's greatest
How about being a black man?
Being black. Hold on 1 second.
Have you?
So this is what I'm saying to y'all, though, and I know we got to go to break, and we didn't necessarily go there. Maybe we should. There are so many layers in this conversation around the way that it's being discussed. When you no. And yes, Shannon, I know y'all are going to say and Stephen A., I know you just shared that you have talked about the WNBA on your program too. You guys may not have said everybody, but the prevailing sentiment for folks that are just joining the WNBA and following women's sports is unfair to the women of this league, to your point, who have laid the groundwork for Caitlin Clark to come in and now take it to the next level. That's all I'm saying in these conversations. Chennedy Carter's behavior is not indicative of the entire league. We are still talking about competition where you are allowed to get a little extra elbow in if you are competing and you do it within the parameters of the game. The game is physical. Caitlin is helping to grow the league. These women understand that, but she cannot be babied as a rookie. That's all I'm at.
All right.
Who talks about the WNBA? Who talks about women? Who talk about women's sports more than First Take?
Stephen A., respectfully, with your platform, you could have been doing this 3 years ago if you wanted to.
Wow.
All right, we got.
All right, pause it for a second.
You guys.
All right. Okay. She just made a point about intersectionality. She just made a point about all of these. We're gonna go back. I want to finish his outrage reaction there. Because I'm a fan of Stephen A. as a New York-based carnival barker. I find it enjoyable when he doesn't know how to pronounce Pokemon names. I find it enjoyable when he goes on Knicks rants when I need a little bit of catharsis. I find it enjoyable when he clowns on Skip and all of that stuff. He's a jokester. He's funny as like a comedic presence in the way that maybe Trump would have been if he didn't end up being like a Republican freak psycho who ended up being like a massive racist and also a horrible thing for our country. And Stephen A. also has political ambitions. Just putting that a little bit over there.
But he's also, like, I think you're alluding to a little bit too, he's conservatively coded.
Oh yeah.
He's friendly with Mark Levin. He's appeared on, he's a radio host, Mark Levin, a Fox radio host, Mark Levin. He has described himself as a, avid listener of Levin's program. He's been a guest on Sean Hannity's show. He's more likely, he's someone I think who does not want to define himself by his political leanings, but based on public consumption, he leans right.
And she just gave this whole explanation of how difficult it is to be a woman. And he said, well, how about to be a black man? 100% true. I would never say that as a white woman, my experience going through life is harder than being a black man in this country. There's zero anecdotal experience that would back that up. There's zero statistical evidence that would back that up. I have immense privilege, like way more than black men in this country, more than black women. But I'm not the one that's saying this to Stephen A. Monica McNutt, as a black woman, is saying it, who is in this business, who's played ball herself on the college level, who is like trying to make a point about the like intersectional inequities in society as it relates to the sport that she covers. And he turns and just makes it about himself and disregards and her criticism of First Take and disregards everything she said there. Can we go back 20 seconds?
I also just want to say this is very out of left field. I'm just curious if you've seen it because it kind of reminds me of this. Have you seen the movie Desperately Seeking Susan?
No.
It's with Madonna and Rosanna Arquette.
No, I haven't, but I've heard of it.
I just watched it with my mom and my wife last night.
My wife.
And at the end of the movie, like basically, it's kind of just like a comedy of errors, like misplaced identity. Basically, Madonna and Rosanna Arquette get confused for each other. A movie like this would be completely solved with an iPhone, but it was made in 1985.
Yeah.
Her husband finally tracks her down, Rosanna Arquette, and says, "Why did you leave? Why did you let this happen?" And she basically is like, "I'm really disaffected as a suburban housewife, and I fantasized about other people's lives in the personal sections of the newspaper, and that's why I did. That's why I left, and that's why I was feeling disillusioned." And his response is, "Are you a lesbian?
Yeah.
Do you do drugs?"
That's exactly
right. It's like he But Monica McNutt makes literally the entire point as to why she is frustrated with this discourse, why it is much more nuanced for her being a black woman who has played sports, a black woman who has had more literacy and more experience with the WNBA. And Stephen A. Smith is like, have you watched my TV show?
Yeah.
Like,
do you even watch First Take, bro?
And you'll see he gets a little more into
He gets
that as
worse. All right, go back just a little because I want the tail end of her explanation here just to highlight his insane reaction.
Stephen A., respectfully, with your platform, you could have been doing this 3 years ago.
No, back even more.
He cannot be babied as a rookie. That's all I'm at.
All right.
Who talks about the WNBA? Who talks about women? Who talk about women's sports more than First Take?
Stephen A., respectfully, with your platform, you could have been doing this 3 years ago if you wanted to.
Wow.
All right, we got to go. You guys.
So did you
You
say
know
that
you're
on
my
the show?
guy, but
Who does more than
Stephen A.,
us?
I'm talking to you.
Wow.
Don't do that. I'm talking to you about the
Oh, my
power that
Lord.
you have.
Okay.
I'm talking to you.
Okay.
All right, let's.
I got
You're my guy, but
I
I'm
got
talking
it.
to
He's
you.
mad.
Guys, I really
You missed,
appreciate
you my girl, but you've missed a lot of episodes of First Take. You missed a lot.
Stephen A.,
Guys.
3 years ago,
I'll leave
you
it
would
at
not
that.
talk about the
Go
W
ahead,
at this
Mama.
level. Don't do that.
Guys.
Nobody was, Monica. You making Stephen A's point, Monica. Monica, you
gentlemen,
making
please
Stephen
let
A's
me do my
point.
job. Please let me do my job. We've gone for 40 minutes straight. It was a riveting discussion. I have to get in the
Jesus.
commercial break.
Stephen A., I've never seen him genuinely and not performatively pissed. And you know what it took?
and not just pissed, stunned into silence.
Good for Monica. She is an up-and-comer in this industry, and ESPN is a monopolistic juggernaut. He has probably never been called out in earnest in any real way outside of the theater of the show on his program in I don't know how long. I mean, they bring on clowns like the frickin', LeVar Balls of the world for them to have fun with, and I still get great enjoyment out of their banter. I still go back to him going on and claiming he could beat Michael Jordan one-on-one and enjoy Stephen A's just complete bewilderment. It's fun. That's what it's for. It's if you take these people seriously for sports analysis, don't take us seriously, but definitely don't take ESPN seriously. Read writers. Listen to more in-depth podcasts on this. But the fact that he got that mad because she said something that's objectively true. I mean, I don't need to go back and watch First Take to know that they weren't covering the WNBA
It is
in the same
objectively
way.
true. We don't need, as you're saying, we don't need to look through. We don't need to look through Google search analytics to find whether or not Stephen A. was mentioning WNBA topics or players more in 2021 than he is now. We know it to be true. The focus on women's basketball reached an inflection point specifically in this NCAA tournament, even relative to last year's when LSU beat Iowa.
Yeah.
That the fact that Caitlin Clark's team made it to the finals, and then immediately after she was drafted first overall and immediately thrust into a professional environment, has made it so that more and more people who have either never dabbled into the WNBA whatsoever and now have opinions on it, or very minimally, or people like Stephen A. Smith, who literally gets paid to cover professional sports, is now doing so more than he ever has before, and is now either feeling slightly remorseful about it or doesn't actually want to own up to the fact that he wasn't covering this before, because he wasn't.
He wasn't. And that's the point is what kind of attention do we want on the WNBA? Do we want these women to be treated like professionals, like the tops of their sport, like competitors who don't need to be shrinking violets to be able to get sympathy? They don't need to look a certain way. They don't need to look like Caitlin Clark to get your attention. That's what people are upset about, right? And Clark never asked for this. I want to reiterate it. She's been a phenomenal, jolt of lightning for women's sports in this way. But does the attention have to be all about oh, poor Caitlin, these scary black women are coming for her? Because it's sports have a predominantly male fan base, and there are a lot of racist men that watch that, and that's the takeaway that they want. ESPN has to be more responsible in their coverage to make sure that they're not doing that. And that's what Monica is saying as an employee of ESPN. And he can't take the heat.
And this is also discursively why it's been so, I would say, odious and I'm not trying to both sides this. I more just mean the fact that the discourse is far more annoying and far more irritating than anything Caitlin Clark has actually literally said out loud. There was a dispatch from one of the first Indiana Fever games, from one of the websites I talk about all the time on the show, Defector.com.
Good job, Defector.
Maythree and Tharaman, who is a big WNBA fan on their site, went to a Fever game. Literally, every single question Caitlin Clark was being asked in the post-game or pre-game huddle from the media was, you just started out your career after the NCAA women's final. What is that like for you as a rookie, especially being in your position? And literally, every single answer Caitlin Clark was given is like, it's fine, it's normal. Every single rookie in the WNBA has also experienced this. This is the timeline. I am not any different from anybody else just because I am who I am. It is literally the same timeline that every single other WNBA player has gone through to become a rookie in this league. She is not driving this. She's not literally coming out here and saying, because I am white, I am being treated differently. That's what freaks like Pat McAfee are doing. That's what or on the other end of it, it's either people, I think, where it can be grating on both ends of this dialogue, and it doesn't skew. It's not a left-right issue. It's more just like it is like a nebulous sort of weird culture war issue. Where on one end, I think there are some legacy WNBA viewers who, for no fault of their own, I sort of understand where they're coming from, can kind of telegraph it as almost being like, it's a public service to watch the WNBA. It's like a social justice bona fide to watch the WNBA, which, whether it is or not, is not what I'm talking about. I'm saying performing that performing that and expressing that as if it is.
As if it's social activism.
It's not social activism to watch the WNBA.
That's condescending.
Like watch the WNBA because it's an entertaining league with entertaining players, and it has been for 20 years, but we just don't watch it because it's women playing basketball. And I don't say that as my own personal opinion. I'm saying that as like factually, when you look at the viewership numbers, when you look at how it's been talked about, this league was a running joke for Michael Chan SNL and for every late night host for years, despite how talented the women in this league are, despite how incredible they are at the game that they play, and despite there being actual stakes to it, despite being a literal 12-team league that until now was flying commercial. It's almost more impressive that it was entertaining, despite how limited their options were. And on the other end of it, there are these people who are saying, look at what Caitlin Clark did for your league. You should be thanking her instead of giving her a hard hip check foul. You should be bowing. You should be at her feet, giving her laurels. You should be thanking her for making your sorry profession relevant. And as if any competitor in any other league would ever be expected to do that. As if when Patrick Beverley had a dirty play and pushed Chris Paul in the back, he shouldn't have done that. It was a horrible thing to do. He was punished for it. No one's saying Chris Paul is a Hall of Famer. How dare you treat him that way? He's in State Farm commercials. Don't you think he expands the revenue of the league? How dare you?
Let's actually, I think a better example for her phenomenon is what Tiger did for golf.
Yes. Right.
Was Tiger getting this treatment in the same way that she's being asked in the same way? I mean, everyone recognized it was a phenomenon without having to like insert their own freaking weird, I don't know, impulse. It's not the right word, but weird like.
People graphing on their own personal feelings onto
this situation.
When Caitlin Clark is not exhibiting anything to react to.
Right.
Everyone's reacting to each other reacting.
Exactly. And I know that there was a lot of racial animus towards Tiger in the golf world. I'm not trying to take away from that whatsoever. But the point is just in terms of like who's as transformative to building up a sport into something that was more marginal into what it is now. The treatment that he got was like, this is a frickin' prodigy god on earth. And her level of play isn't what he was exhibiting, but it took him some time to ramp up, right? Until he was winning all of those majors. It's not a perfect analogy. But the point is just that, yes, because it's women, because it's a white woman, because there is this, I think, way that we've constructed masculinity in this society that is really built upon notions of protecting women, protecting certain kinds of women from certain kinds of people. Need I remind folks about Emmett Till and all of the other ways that white men felt like they needed to protect white women from scary black people throughout our history, and how they kind of make that the defining factor of their masculinity. That is all the history that is undergirding this story. And again, it's nothing that Caitlin Clark asked for. So let's have that perspective when rooting for her or watching her career, but watching all the other women that make this league what it is. And honestly, players in the league also try to have that perspective, I think. So.
And to your, just one last quick thing to your point on Tiger Woods. Reporters, when they were talking to Tiger Woods, literally were like, don't you think you're coming off a little bit arrogant that you think you're going to win tournaments?
There you go.
No one was literally saying, well, why don't you hey, legacy golf reporter, why don't you shut the fuck up? Because Tiger Woods is a young black lightning rod for the sport, who's going to expand the sport and make it one of the make their Grand Slam tournaments appointment viewing for millions of people every year. Don't ask him those questions. No one was saying that.
Yeah.
No one was saying you should be literally groveling on at Tiger's feet for being Tiger Woods. When people were heavily scrutinizing and criticizing and microaggressing, for lack of a better verb, Serena and Venus Williams, no one was saying, look at what she's going to do for the sport. Look at what they're revolutionizing tennis. Shut the hell up.
Yeah.
These things aren't happening that way. And obviously, there's racial coding to that as well.
Of course.
No question.
I mean,
but
Serena maybe was a better example for my situation, just because of the, she revolutionized women's tennis. 100%.
Absolutely.
And the treatment that she got from the press was extremely adversarial and racist.
And all that is to say, it's that the reason why I'm bringing any of that up is because there's this on the other end of the spectrum of the thing I was describing, not like the sort of like watching WNBA as social justice, the other side of it being as if Caitlin Clark requires this level of defense.
Yeah.
She doesn't need defending. She doesn't need the help of people like Pat McAfee saying, forget about the rest of this rookie class, who, by the way, are all black women, or including Camila Cardozo, South American. All we're talking about actually is that white bitch in Indiana. Somehow, in your caping, your white knighting for this woman who does not need your protection in that way, you're still calling her a white bitch.
Yeah, exactly. So even then, they can't hide the misogyny.
No.
And that's what Monica McNutt was trying to say, Stephen A. These are all intersectional. They're all forms of domination and subjugation. And let's try to keep that in mind and not replicate them, okay?